Hello, Doctor, Professor.
It came from the ice, a crashed saucer buried in the Arctic, a creature frozen for centuries, brought back to life by men who had no idea what they were unleashing. The Thing from Another World wasn't just science fiction, it was a production nightmare wrapped in innovation. The director fought for credit while another legend pulled the strings. The creature couldn't see through his costume. In one scene, they set the actor on fire for real. These are 20 weird facts about The Thing from Another World. And the bonus? The military tried to shut down the entire production. Bundle up. This one gets cold fast. Number 1. Two names appear on the poster, Christian Nyby as director, Howard Hawks as producer. But on set, nobody was really sure who was calling the shots. Nyby was a protege of Hawks, a skilled editor who'd never directed a feature film before. Hawks had offered to let him take the director's chair as a favor, a way to launch his career. But when cameras rolled, Hawks couldn't stay away. He'd whisper notes to actors between takes. He'd reframe shots. He'd rewrite dialogue on the spot, standing just off camera with his arms crossed, watching everything. The cast later admitted they took direction from both men, sometimes in the same scene, never quite sure whose vision they were serving. Nyby tried to assert himself, but Hawks had the power, the reputation, and the final say in editing. Years later, film historians would argue endlessly about who really directed The Thing. Some pointed to Hawks' signature rapid-fire dialogue and strong female characters. Others noted Nyby's editorial precision in the pacing. The truth is messier. It was a collaboration born from mentorship that became a battle for creative control, fought quietly in the frozen corners of an RKO soundstage. Nyby got the credit. Hawks got the film he wanted, and audiences got a masterpiece that neither man could have made alone. Number 2. Before the creature could terrify audiences, it had to be cast. And finding someone to play an 8-foot intelligent vegetable from outer space wasn't exactly a straightforward audition. The role required height, physicality, and the ability to move with menace inside a costume that weighed over 50 pounds. Howard Hawks knew exactly who he wanted. James Arness, a towering actor standing 6'7", with a background in war films and westerns. Arness had the presence, the frame, and the willingness to disappear inside heavy makeup. But there was a problem. Arness couldn't see anything. The creature's head was built with tiny eye slits that offered almost no peripheral vision. During rehearsals, he stumbled into walls, knocked over props, and once nearly trampled an actress during a chase sequence. The crew tried widening the eye holes, but it compromised the alien design. So they adapted. They gave Arness a handler who would guide him between takes and mark his path with tape on the floor. During actual shooting, he'd move on instinct and memory, lurching forward with arms outstretched, hoping the actors would be where they were supposed to be. It was dangerous, chaotic, and weirdly effective, because the creature's blind fumbling made it feel even more otherworldly, more unpredictable. Arness later said playing The Thing taught it is more about physical acting than any role before or since. You don't need to see to become a monster. You just need to commit. Number 3. The opening scene, a flying saucer buried beneath Arctic ice. It looked incredible on screen, but getting that shot nearly destroyed the production. The crew built a massive ice set using a combination of real ice blocks, painted wood, and chemical compounds meant to simulate frozen tundra. The problem? The studio lights. Every time they turned them on to film, the heat melted everything. Ice would crack and slide. The fake snow turned to slush. The carefully sculpted saucer outline started to blur into a gray puddle. They tried shooting quickly, racing against the melt, but the lights needed time to warm up for proper exposure. The cinematographer was furious. The set designer was in tears. Howard Hawks stood in the middle of it all, arms crossed, refusing to compromise the shot. So, they rebuilt it, again and again, over 4 separate nights. Each time, they'd refreeze the set using portable cooling units borrowed from a local ice plant. Each time, they'd get maybe 20 minutes of usable filming before the whole thing started to collapse. By the 5th attempt, the crew was exhausted, frozen, and ready to quit. But Hawks pushed through. He got the saucer reveal. He got the excavation scene. And he got one of the most iconic images in 1950s science fiction, all because he refused to settle for a set that looked fake, even if it meant watching it melt 5 times over. Number 4. The thing wasn't human. It was vegetable-based, an alien creature with chlorophyll in its veins instead of blood. But bringing that concept to life required more than makeup and costumes. It required fire. In one of the film's most intense sequences, the crew douses the creature in kerosene and lights it ablaze in a desperate attempt to kill it. On screen, it's terrifying. Behind the scenes, it was legitimately dangerous. James Arness wore a fire-retardant suit beneath his creature costume, but the outer layers, the latex and foam that gave the thing its grotesque appearance, those were absolutely flammable. The stunt was planned with military precision. Arness would wear the suit, get doused in controlled flame accelerant, and run down a corridor for exactly 8 seconds before the crew extinguished him. They had fire extinguishers ready, a medic on standby, protective gel on any exposed skin. And when they rolled camera, it went sideways immediately. The flames spread faster than expected. Arness couldn't see through the smoke. He ran too far, crashed into a wall, and for a moment the crew thought they'd lost him. They rushed in with extinguishers, smothered the flames, and pulled him out gasping but unharmed. Hawks watched the playback and said one word: again. Arness, still shaking, suited up and did it 2 more times until they got the shot Hawks wanted. Today, that scene would be digital. Back then, it was just a man in a monster suit, on fire, running blind through a soundstage. And somehow, he survived. Number 5. The military didn't want this movie made, not because of the monster, but because of the message. The Thing from Another World depicted military personnel working alongside scientists in an isolated Arctic outpost, and the conflict between the two groups, soldiers who wanted to destroy the creature versus scientists who wanted to study it, made the Air Force nervous. This was 1950, the height of Cold War paranoia. The government wanted films that portrayed the military as competent, united, and heroic. They didn't want movies that showed soldiers arguing with intellectuals or taking orders from civilians. Howard Hawks didn't care. He refused to change the script. The Air Force responded by denying the production access to military equipment, uniforms, and consultation. So, Hawks improvised. He hired actual war veterans to act as technical advisors. He bought surplus military gear from Army-Navy stores. He had costumes fabricated based on photographs of real Arctic uniforms. And when the military realized the film was going ahead without them, they tried a different approach. They sent observers to the set, supposedly to ensure accuracy, but really to report back on how the military was being portrayed. Hawks let them watch, then ignored every note they gave. He kept the conflict in the script. He kept the scientist as a morally questionable figure. And when the film was released, the Air Force quietly distanced themselves from it, while audiences packed theaters. The Thing succeeded not despite military opposition, but because Hawks understood that tension and conflict, even off-screen, made better drama than propaganda ever could. Number 6. Margaret Sheridan played Nikki Nicholson, the only woman in the Arctic outpost and one of the strongest female characters in 1950s science fiction. But she almost wasn't cast. The studio wanted someone more glamorous, more traditionally Hollywood. They suggested a contract actress with magazine covers and a carefully managed image. Hawks refused. He'd seen Sheridan in smaller roles and knew she could handle rapid-fire dialogue, could trade barbs with male leads without being reduced to a screaming damsel. But convincing RKO to take a chance on her required a strategy. Hawks arranged a screen test, not a typical reading, but a full scene with the lead actor Kenneth Tobey. He gave them pages of overlapping dialogue, the kind of screwball comedy patter he was famous for, and told them to play it fast and sharp. Sheridan nailed it. She didn't just keep up with Tobey, she pushed him harder, made him work for every line. The studio executives watched the test and realized something. She wasn't just good, she was better than their first choice. So, they signed her. On set, Sheridan held her own in a cast of military veterans and character actors. She delivered one of the film's most quoted lines about men in relationships with perfect deadpan timing. And she did it all while freezing in a soundstage kept intentionally cold to preserve the ice effects. Hawks later said casting Sheridan was one of the smartest decisions he never got credit for. Because in a film about monsters and soldiers, she made sure the smartest person in the room was a woman. Number 7. The Thing's blood wasn't blood. It was bright green, a visual choice that separated the creature from humanity and emphasized its alien vegetable nature. But creating that effect in black and white required a strange workaround. Green doesn't photograph well in black and white cinematography. It often appears too light, washing out against other elements. So, the special effects team needed something that would read dark and viscous on film, while still being safe for actors to touch. They tested everything. Chocolate syrup, the classic Hollywood blood substitute, too brown, India ink, too thin, motor oil, too toxic. Then someone suggested a combination of molasses and food coloring, thickened with cornstarch and darkened with black dye. It looked grotesque in person, a thick, sludgy mess that stuck to everything it touched. But on camera, it was perfect, dark, ominous, unmistakably alien. The actors hated it. It stained costumes, ruined shoes, and smelled faintly of decay after sitting under hot lights for hours. James Arness had it pumped through tubes built into his costume, so when characters shot the creature, the blood would spray realistically. But the pressure was never quite right. Sometimes it trickled, sometimes it exploded. During one take, it sprayed directly into an actress's face, and she screamed not from acting, but from genuine surprise and disgust. They kept the take. Hawks loved the authenticity of her reaction. Because in a film about encountering something truly alien, even the fake blood had to feel wrong. Number 8. The Geiger counter scene, where scientists detect radioactivity from the buried spacecraft, it wasn't planned. During early filming, the production borrowed an actual working Geiger counter from a university research lab. The prop department assumed it was just for show, a piece of scientific equipment that looked official but did nothing. Then during a lighting test, someone turned it on near the set and it started clicking, loudly, persistently. Everyone froze. Someone joked about radioactive ice. Someone else wondered if the studio lights were emitting something dangerous. Then the technician from the university explained. The clicking was detecting low-level background radiation, completely normal, nothing to worry about. But Howard Hawks overheard the commotion and walked over. He listened to the clicking. He watched the actors' confused faces, and he immediately rewrote the scene. Instead of just discussing the spacecraft, he had the characters use the Geiger count to trace its outline beneath the ice. He directed the actors to react to the clicking with increasing tension, turning a random technical moment into genuine suspense. The scene was shot in one take because the borrowed Geiger counter had to be returned the next day. No rehearsal, no second chances, just actors responding to a real device detecting real radiation in real time. When audiences watched the film, they heard that clicking and felt the dread build. They had no idea they were listening to an accident that became one of the film's most effective moments. Sometimes the best scares aren't planned, they're discovered. Number 9. Kenneth Tobey played Captain Patrick Hendry, the military leader trying to stop the creature. But Tobey wasn't supposed to be a leading man. He was a character actor, someone who played supporting roles, sidekicks, authority figures, who delivered exposition and then disappeared. Hawks saw something else. He cast Tobey specifically because he didn't look like a typical Hollywood hero. No chiseled jaw, no star power, just a working actor with a solid face and believable authority. And Tobey repaid that faith by bringing something unexpected to the role: humor. Not jokes, not comic relief, but a dry, understated wit that made Captain Hendry feel like a real person dealing with an impossible situation. Between takes, Tobey would improvise small moments: a raised eyebrow, a muttered comment under his breath, a slight smile when other characters panicked. Hawks loved it. He encouraged Tobey to keep going, to find the humanity in every scene, to make sure the audience rooted for this guy, even when he was making questionable decisions. And it worked. Tobey's performance grounded the entire film. When he was scared, the audience was scared. When he was determined, they believed victory was possible. Critics later praised the ensemble cast, but Tobey was the glue that held it together. He proved you didn't need star power to carry a movie. You just needed truth, timing, and a director who trusted you enough to let you find both. Number 10. The final showdown, where the crew electrocutes the creature, it required more power than the studio could provide. The electrical effects needed to look massive, overwhelming, deadly. But running that much current through the set would blow the circuits and shut down the entire sound stage. So the special effects team got creative. They rigged a separate power system, pulling electricity from 3 different sources: the main studio grid, a backup generator, and a series of industrial batteries normally used for emergency lighting. When they flipped the switches for the big moment, every light on the soundstage surged, Sparks flew from the rigging, the electrical panels glowed, and James Arness, standing in the middle of it all in his creature costume, felt the air vibrate with energy. He wasn't being electrocuted, the effects were carefully controlled, but the heat and light were overwhelming. He couldn't see, he could barely breathe, and he had to hold position for 30 seconds while the cameras captured every angle. When Hawks finally yelled "cut," Arness collapsed. The medic rushed in, checked his vitals, and determined he was fine, just overwhelmed by heat exhaustion. They gave him water, let him rest for an hour, and then Hawks asked if he could do it one more time. Arness looked at him like he was insane, but he suited up and did it again, because that's what making movies in 1951 required. No digital safety nets, no computer-generated effects, just practical danger and actors willing to stand in the fire, literally, to get the shot. Number 11. The sound of the thing moving through the Arctic base, that distinctive scraping, shuffling noise that built tension in every scene. It drove the sound designer to the edge of a breakdown. Jack Foley, the legendary sound effects artist, spent weeks trying to create the perfect creature footsteps. He tried everything. Boots on ice, dragging chains, modified animal sounds, even recording himself walking in progressively heavier costumes. Nothing worked. Hawks kept rejecting every attempt, saying it didn't sound alien enough, didn't sound wrong enough. Finally, in desperation, Foley recorded himself tearing apart a head of cabbage, the wet, crunching, organic sound of vegetable matter ripping and splitting. He slowed it down, layered it with his own breathing, added the scrape of metal on concrete, and suddenly, there it was. The sound of something that shouldn't exist, moving through spaces meant for humans. Hawks approved it immediately, but Foley couldn't unhear it. For months afterward, he'd flinch in grocery stores whenever someone handled produce. The sound that made the thing terrifying had permanently rewired something in his brain. He later said it was the most effective sound effect he'd ever created, and the one that haunted him the longest. Because once you've taught yourself to hear a vegetable as a monster, you can't go back. Number 12. Dewey Martin played Crew Chief Bob, one of the Air Force personnel stationed at the outpost. But Martin had a strange demand before signing his contract. He insisted on working with real ice, not the chemical substitutes, not the painted foam, actual frozen water. The studio thought he was insane. Real ice would melt under the lights, create continuity problems, and make filming nearly impossible. But Martin wouldn't budge. He'd served in the military during World War II, spent time in cold weather training, and he said he could tell the difference. If he was going to play a soldier in the Arctic, he needed to feel the cold. Hawks, surprisingly, agreed. He ordered the crew to incorporate real ice into Martin's specific scenes. They'd bring in blocks from an ice factory, place them strategically around Martin's position, and shoot quickly before they melted. Martin would touch them between takes, letting his hands go numb, letting his breath fog naturally in the cold pockets created by the ice. The other actors thought he was method acting, to an absurd degree, but Martin knew something they didn't. The body doesn't lie. When you're genuinely cold, genuinely uncomfortable, it shows in every gesture, every movement. You can't fake the small shivers, the way you hold yourself, the tension in your shoulders, and in his scenes, you can see it. While other actors performed being cold, Martin actually was cold. It's a subtle difference, but it's there. Sometimes the best performance isn't acting at all, it's just refusing to pretend. Number 13. The famous line, "Keep watching the skies," delivered at the film's climax by journalist Ned Scott, it wasn't in the original script. It was added during the final week of filming when Hawks realized the movie needed a stronger ending, something that would leave audiences looking up as they walked out of the theater. The writer wasn't available for rewrites. Hawks was under deadline pressure. So he turned to the cast and said, "Someone give me a line that warns people but doesn't explain everything." They brainstormed between takes. Douglas Spencer, who played Ned Scott, suggested the phrase based on something he'd heard during the war, a reminder from reconnaissance pilots to always stay alert. Hawks loved it. He had Spencer deliver it straight to camera, breaking the fourth wall in a way that was bold for 1951. One take, no rehearsal, just an actor looking directly at the audience and issuing a warning that would echo through decades of science fiction. The line became iconic, quoted in later films, referenced in television shows, embedded in the cultural DNA of Cold War cinema. And it almost didn't exist. It was improvised necessity, born from deadline panic, turned into one of the most memorable moments in the entire film. Sometimes the perfect ending isn't written. it's discovered in desperation. Number 14. Christian Niebuhr might have gotten director credit, but there's one scene that's undeniably his. The sequence where the crew discovers the creature has escaped and they find only a pool of thawed ice. Niebuhr fought Hawks for control of that moment. Hawks wanted to shoot it with dramatic lighting, ominous shadows, building tension slowly. Niebuhr wanted something different, stark light, clinical examination, the horror coming from realization rather than atmosphere. They argued for an hour before Hawks finally stepped back and said, "Fine, show me." Niebuhr cleared the set of extra lights, positioned the actors in a tight circle, and shot it almost documentary style, flat, harsh, unforgiving light that exposed every detail. No music cues, no dramatic angles, just men looking at an empty space and understanding what it meant. When Hawks saw the footage, he didn't say anything. He just nodded and moved on. The scene stayed in the film exactly as Niebuhr shot it, and it's brilliant. In a movie filled with atmosphere and shadow, this moment of brutal clarity hits harder than any scare. It proved that Niebuhr wasn't just Hawks's puppet. He had vision, instinct, and the courage to fight for what he believed would work. That one scene, more than any credit dispute, showed he earned the title of director. Number 15. The creature's appearance was kept secret until the film's premiere. No publicity stills, no behind-the-scenes photographs, no magazine spreads revealing the monster. This was intentional. Hawks understood that the imagination creates better monsters than any costume could deliver. So, he let anticipation build for months. Theater owners complained. Marketing departments panicked. How were they supposed to sell tickets without showing the monster? Hawks remained firm. The mystery was the marketing, and he was right. When audiences finally saw the thing on screen, the impact was devastating. Not because the costume was perfect, it wasn't, but because they'd spent months wondering, speculating, imagining. The actual creature couldn't match everyone's personal nightmare, but it didn't need to. The waiting had done the work, lines wrapped around theaters. People bought tickets for second and third viewings, bringing friends who hadn't seen it yet, wanting to watch their reactions. The creature became less important than the experience of encountering it. Hawks had weaponized anticipation. He'd turned a budget monster suit into a cultural event simply by refusing to show it early. Today, studios release every detail months before premiere, dissecting trailers frame by frame, eliminating all mystery. But in 1951, the thing proved that sometimes the best special effect is making people wait. Number 16. Robert Cornthwaite played Dr. Carrington, the scientist who wanted to preserve and study the alien creature despite the danger it posed. And his performance was so convincing that he received death threats. Not fan mail, actual threats. Viewers saw his character prioritizing scientific knowledge over human safety, and they didn't see fiction. They saw communist sympathies. They saw atomic age hubris. They saw everything they feared about intellectuals during the McCarthy era. Cornthwaite was shaken. He tried to explain it was just a role, just a character exploring legitimate scientific curiosity taken to dangerous extremes. But the letters kept coming. Some accused him of being un-American. Others said he should be investigated. Hawks heard about the harassment and reportedly told Cornthwaite, "That means you did your job too well." But that wasn't comforting to an actor wondering if his career would survive playing a morally complex character in an age of moral absolutes. The irony is that Carrington isn't entirely wrong in the film. His arguments about scientific discovery have merit. He's not a villain. He's a man with different priorities facing an impossible situation. But 1951 America wasn't ready for that nuance. They wanted clear heroes and villains. Cornthwaite gave them a fully realized human being instead, and he paid the price. Number 17. The film's ending, where the creature is destroyed by electricity, was shot 3 different ways because no one could agree on how explicit it should be. Version 1 showed the creature burning in graphic detail, skin melting, body collapsing. Version 2 was more suggestive, with shadows and smoke obscuring the worst. Version 3 happened mostly off-screen, with only reactions from the human characters. Hawks shot all 3, edited them together, and tested them with different audiences. The graphic version got the biggest screams but left people disturbed. The subtle version built tension but felt anticlimactic. The off-screen version let imaginations do the work and got the strongest overall response. So, that's what made the final cut. You see the setup, you see the electricity surge, you see the characters' horrified faces, but the actual destruction happens in shadows and smoke. It was a masterclass in restraint. Hawks knew that showing everything would satisfy momentary bloodlust, but diminish lasting impact. By holding back, by trusting the audience to fill in the blanks, he created something that lingered. People left the theater with their own personal version of the creature's death, and their version was always worse than anything he could have shown them. Number 18. During a crucial scene where the creature attacks through a doorway, something went wrong with the breakaway door. It was supposed to splinter easily when James Arness hit it in costume, but someone had accidentally used real wood instead of balsa. Arness charged at full speed, hit the door, and it didn't break. He bounced off, stumbled backward, and the entire shot was ruined. But the cameras kept rolling because no one yelled cut. Arness, unable to see properly through his costume, thought the scene was still going. So he tried again, hitting the door even harder. This time it cracked, but didn't give way. He hit it a third time, putting his full weight behind it, and the door finally exploded inward, sending splinters flying across the set. An actress screamed, this time not from the script, but from genuine fear as wood fragments shot past her face. Hawks watched the whole thing unfold, and when they cut, instead of checking if anyone was hurt, he said, "Print it." The desperation in Arness's repeated attacks, the authentic terror in the actress's scream, the raw physicality of the creature literally breaking through solid wood, it was better than anything they'd rehearsed. The mistake made it real. And real, Hawks knew, was always better than perfect. Number 19. The film premiered on April 27, 1951, and became an immediate hit. But it wasn't just successful at the box office. It changed science fiction cinema. Before The Thing, sci-fi was mostly ray guns and rocket ships, pulp adventure with little substance. After The Thing, the genre gained respectability. Critics who usually dismissed science fiction took it seriously. They praised the tight plotting, the character development, the way it used an alien threat to explore human nature under pressure. The film proved you could make smart, sophisticated cinema with a monster. It influenced everything that came after, from Alien to The Terminator to every isolated group versus creature film ever made. Directors studied it, film schools analyzed it, and a generation of filmmakers grew up understanding that science fiction didn't have to choose between intelligence and entertainment. It could deliver both. John Carpenter would remake it 30 years later, creating his own masterpiece that was darker, bloodier, and more nihilistic. But even Carpenter acknowledged the 1951 version as foundational, the film that proved science fiction could be art. All because Hawks and his team refused to talk down to the audience, refused to settle for cheap thrills, and insisted on making something that respected both the genre and the people watching it. Number 20. When filming finally wrapped, the cast and crew held a screening for themselves before the studio saw it. No executives, no test audience, just the people who had made it, watching what they'd created in a small screening room at RKO. And halfway through, they realized something. They'd made it too scary. During the creature's first appearance, 2 crew members left the room. During the electrical climax, someone vomited. These were people who'd seen every effect, who'd watched James Arness get fitted for the costume, who knew exactly how every trick worked. And they were still terrified. Hawks sat through it without expression, then stood up when it ended and said, "I think we're going to have problems." He was right. The MPAA flagged several scenes as too intense. Some theaters refused to show it to anyone under 16. Parents wrote angry letters, but audiences kept coming, kept screaming, kept telling their friends they had to see this movie. The Thing became a phenomenon, not despite its intensity, but because of it. In an era of sanitized entertainment, it dared to genuinely frighten people. And the cast and crew who had been scared by their own film, they understood they'd accomplished something rare. They'd created a monster that worked, not just on screen, but in the deepest part of the human brain where fear lives. Bonus fact: the most expensive prop wasn't the creature costume or flying saucer, it was ice. Hawks demanded perfectly clear blocks for the frozen creature scene, commissioning custom ice from a sculpture company. Each block cost more than some actors' weekly salaries, took 3 days to freeze, and melted after 4 hours under studio lights. They needed multiple blocks for different takes, each specially ordered and rushed to set before degrading. Hawks never apologized. He said the ice was a character, and characters deserved proper casting, even temporary ones made of water. That ridiculous expense created unforgettable visuals because Hawks knew everything matters. Audiences feel details even when they don't notice them.